With Kenny Omega wanting Roman Reigns in AEW and CM Punk on who the best wrestler is today, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for September 23rd. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. On his 83 Weeks podcast, Eric Bischoff spoke about NXT not allowing the son of Rick Steiner, Bron Breakker, to retain his Steiner name. As he noted, Rick is one of my favorite people from that part of my life and we're still friends. We don't chat all the time and all that. Rick and I became pretty good friends in WCW and we became very good friends after. So happy to see his son on NXT, but I've got some issues with the Bron Breakker thing. I kept my mouth shut. The only thing I said, and it was challenging for me on social media when it happened, I was like, I really try. Oh, there's no doubt he's going to be a star. I get that they didn't want to call him Rex Steiner because his last name is Rex Steiner and nothing lasts forever. Relationships generally don't last forever, especially business relationships. You have to plan for the inevitable, and I understand why they would want to protect their intellectual property and give Bronson a real character name that they have control over. I don't like that, but I understand it. It's a fact of life whether I like it or I don't. The truth of the matter is the business WWE and AEW are in, you have to protect your intellectual property. I get that, but they just cut a guy by the name of Braun. That's the part I don't get. The Breakker part, that's like a video game kind of mentality. I get why they would do that, I understand it, but I still hate it. The Braun part of that, the Bron Breakker after they just got rid of Braun Strowman, man, that's the part that got to me. And I just want to go live it on Twitter. And I went, no, then you're just like everybody else. You're better than that. Despite the name Breakker looks set to become a big star at NXT, as we'll have to see what's next for him. With CM Punk previously saying he wants to team up with Bryan Danielson to face the Young Bucks, Bryan told ESPN Sports Nation about them teaming. It just felt inevitable. It felt like destiny that this would happen. Our journeys were so similar. We both traveled through such difficult roads to get to where we are at, and it just seemed like magic. I wrote in my book that it makes me sad that that will most likely never happen. And then now here we are in 2021 and it's a real possibility. I'd heard him say in an interview recently that I hadn't even thought of it, but it's not just me against CM Punk, it's teaming with Punk. He had said something about maybe me and him against the Young Bucks, and I was like, oh my god, that would be awesome. With MJF recently cutting a scathing promo on Brian Pillman Jr., Booker T took to his Hall of Fame podcast to declare him the best promo on the planet. I can't lie to you, the best promo guy right now in the whole damn world is MJF. He's good. He's so good. He's so believable. He sounds like one of those promos from back in the day where you get caught up in just looking at the guy's eyes. The feel of the promo makes you go, good god man, this guy's really good. You can tell it's natural just having the feel of which route to go during his promos. I give that guy a whole lot of credit. Damn good promo guy, MJF. MJF even defeated Pillman Jr. this week, so we'll hopefully find out soon what's coming up. When it comes to his recollection of what happened on the plane ride from hell, Rob Van Dam feels that Dark Side of the Ring used creative editing to make it sound like he saw Ric Flair force a stewardess to touch him. Rick would fire back at Rob, as a fan wrote, as if Rob would have the stones to stand up to Flair, with Van Dam replying, tell him meet me outside, weird dude Wes, join. Later, a fan on Twitter would ask, to be fair Rob, for all the stupidity and hassle this episode has caused you, is it safe to say it isn't worth working with these people again, since they clearly painted you in a bad light? You should not have to justify the truth to every entitled idiot that thinks they know. RVD would reply, I'd say about 90% of the articles I've read with my interviews are changed somewhat. Although not always impactful, I'm used to it. I'm surprised that people can hear the facts afterwards and still ignore them for their own suitable comprehension though. That's people. It was reported yesterday that Gran Metalik has requested his release from WWE due to creative frustration. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer would note, "I think there's a good chance that they'll release him because their mentality is different. In 2019, it would have been much different because they wouldn't want him to go. Metalik's contract is set to run out in 2023, as we hope he'll be able to get out and find work elsewhere." Speaking on WFAN's Moose and Maggie, Bryan Danielson mentioned that he was considering an independent wrestling schedule as opposed to signing with AEW and WWE. There was also a lot of people look at it in terms of two options. You're either going to be with WWE or AEW, but part of me was like, or I could just do like an independent schedule where I don't sign with anybody. And I also thought about not coming back to wrestling at all, in the sense of at least the next couple of years. While Kenny Omega has said Danielson won't be receiving a rematch against him, there should be more for Bryan to do in AEW. With Chris Jericho at the helm, the Inner Circle has been a force to be reckoned with in AEW. Speaking to Stephanie Chase, he revealed that he wanted to break up the faction. "My idea was for us to respectfully disband and go on our own ways. Tony didn't want to do that. He said, 'Why would you want to disband? You don't have to be together all the time, but you're still the Inner Circle.' After this year, the whole storyline was based around MJF wanting to join. Wardlow is in the Inner Circle, the Pinnacle, 5-on-5, and that sort of thing. It was a well-told year-long story with the five of us. It's good for us to go on our own ways and not be in each other's business every week. It's good that we're still aligned. For me, I thought it was a good time for us to go on our own way, but we can still do that without officially disbanding the band or breaking up the band. I love the fact that we've been a faction since day one in AEW and really never had fights amongst us. There has been a few minor things, but we never turned on each other. Half the group did not turn heel and half the group did not turn babyface and fight with each other. We never did that. I think that's a pretty cool accomplishment, especially in wrestling, because factions come and go quickly. It seems like they're put together just so they can break up and feud for 2 or 3 weeks. We never wanted to do that. We wanted to make it a long-term thing. 5 guys who like each other. We started as heels, we turned babyface together, and we all remain friends and on the same page. That's the way I'd like to keep it. On Wrestling with Brandon Walker, CM Punk touched on who is the best wrestler in the world today and why it's hard to point out. You know, for the first time in I think a long time, the water's as muddy as it has been. I remember in 02 to 03, I was like, Eddie Guerrero is the best wrestler in the world, easily. I remember in 04, Samoa Joe is the best wrestler in the world. It's kind of the whole animus for the best in the world thing. There's a couple of years it was Bryan Danielson, and I think if you have your finger on the pulse of wrestling, there always feels like there was a guy that was, oh, this guy's the best. And that's kind of how the evolution of chip on his shoulder CM Punk happened, is because I was in a company that would never position me as anything, really. I had to fight for everything, and to me it was obvious. Come on guys, this is pretty obvious. That attitude helped develop that character, and now I think it's so subjective too. You could say it's Bryan Danielson, you could say it's Kenny Omega, there's an argument for Roman Reigns. I think now in 2021, like I said, I think this has been the murkiest it's been in a very long time. There's guys in New Japan too. Where else can you see AEW talent wrestle New Japan talent or New Japan talent wrestle guys on the indies? There's that whole forbidden door aspect of AEW that should be very appealing if anybody out there wants to find out who in fact is the best wrestler in the world. If New York City is the center of the wrestling world and you're so up your butt about ratings and buy rates and ticket sales and all that other stuff, well, AEW is the best wrestler in the world because we just packed 20,000 people into Arthur Ashe Stadium. Speaking to Tokyo Sports about which WWE star he wants to see in AEW, Kenny Omega stated he wanted to show the Universal title holder what a real champ is like. We already have a lot of people coming in, so we don't have a problem with opponents. I don't have a specific opponent in mind, but if I had to say, Roman Reigns would be a good opportunity for me to prove what a real champion is like. Given that Reigns and Omega are big stars for their respective companies, this match has little to no chance of happening, but fans can dream. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer revealed that AEW has the opportunity to sign a former WWE star, but they chose not to. They've passed on a lot of people. It looks like they passed on Murphy, who is obviously a great wrestler. The current rumor is that Murphy will be heading to Impact, which could open the door for him to appear on AEW programming. When it comes to the loaded roster AEW has, Jim Ross said on his podcast that I thought the Attitude Era roster was about as good as any roster anybody ever put together. I really do, but boy, we're coming into an age here now in AEW where our roster is going to rival any roster ever in TV pro wrestling. There's a lot to look forward to in that regard. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.